Chapter 17. Saturn over Sunset. The great big golden illusion ripped wide open on Tuesday, October 29, 1929. Variety put it this way: Wall Street lays an egg. Describing Hollywood's golden people from a perspective of 20 years, Mae Murray confided, quote, "We were like dragonflies. We seemed to be suspended effortlessly in the air, but in reality, our wings were beaten very, very fast." End quote. For many of the golden people, already shaken by the arrival of the talkies, this was a final day of reckoning. It was Salon's fateful moment. But in every matter we must mark well the end, for oftentimes God gives men a gleam of happiness and then plunges them into ruin. John Gilbert's debacle was an extreme case. He had been the highest-paid star of 1928, receiving $10,000 a week from MGM ever since he had packed them in with the big parade. After his affair with Garbo had fizzled out, Gilbert married Broadway actress Ina Claire on the rebound. He was in mid-Atlantic, returning from a squabbly honeymoon, when the bubble burst. Gilbert docked in New York to discover that he was broke. Like many other Hollywoodians, he had invested in stocks on margin, a victim of one of the investment sharpies who infested the film colony. He would have done better had he slept on his salary, like Emil Jannings, who during his short Hollywood career had kept $200,000 in cash stuffed inside his pillow. Jack Gilbert had still had an unbreakable contract at MGM to fall back on, but this was a scant solace after his first talkie. A bit of fluff titled His Glorious Night was dubbed a shrieky instead. When the film opened at New York's Capitol Theater, his fans tittered embarrassedly as a caricature of his voice piped out of the loudspeakers like a tinny whine, but Jack's light tenor was in truth not bad. The proof is to be found in a brilliant 1932 comedy, Downstairs, written by Gilbert himself, in which his delivery is excellent. The harm had already been done, however, and columnists and fan magazines spread the word that Gilbert was finished. His fine performance in Downstairs encourages one to lend some credence to the rumor that the sound engineers at MGM, at the order of L.B. Mayer, who at that point wanted to smash Gilbert's career and get rid of him, played a havoc with the trebles and deliberately gelded Gilbert's voice. Jack was a simple fellow who had grown to need the love fix from his fans. The abrupt end of the affair hit him hard. The kiss-off was his wife. While Ina Claire's snooty star rose in talkie heaven due to her impeccable Beacon Hill diction, Gilbert's star fell. Ina did not hesitate to rub salt into his wound by constantly apprising him of the situation. Jack took to the newly legal hard stuff with a vengeance, as did another silent star who had voice trouble, Mary Prevost. Her romantic looks didn't fit her Bronx hunk, and blonde Marie tried to drown her heartbeat in bourbon. Jack and Marie staged a drink-to-death race in which Jack won in 1936. Mary dragged on until 1937 when her half-eaten corpse was discovered in her seedy apartment in Cahuenga Boulevard. Her dachshund had survived by making mincemeat of his mattress. Hollywood has always cannibalized itself. The story of Gilbert's fall turned up on the screen in the 1937 A Star is Born, though the death scene in that film was inspired by the suicide by drowning of yet another despondent Hollywood actor, John Bowers. It was a day of reckoning for some front office men as well. Wall Street wasn't alone in indulging in financial finagling. In 1930, William Fox was accused of malfeasance in office, manipulations of assets, and misappropriations of funds, and ejected from the splendid studio he had built. Feisty little Adolph Zucker, who had mined a private fortune of $40 million in the Paramount Mountain during the 1920s, found himself on the brink of bankruptcy. Even Hearst was in hot water, and this time it was Marion who helped him out. With the rest of the nation, Hollywood had to face the music. The greatest, gaudiest spree in history was over. Many of the 1920s 100 million regular moviegoers had switched from the theater lines to bread lines. In 1930, attendance was off 40%. Some theaters offered desperate come-ons, dish night, 2-for-1 tickets, double features, and free Marcel Wave coupons for the lady patrons. But in the grim dawn of the Great Depression, gimmicks weren't enough to lure back the faithful. Too many factories were closed. Ads sponsored by the All-Year Club of Southern California appeared in the national magazines. Come to California for a glorious vacation. Advise anyone not to come seeking employment, lest he be disappointed, but for tourists, the attractions are unlimited. Hollywood, though shaken by talkies and the crash, took stock and pulled through. In the process, the Movieland mythos took a drubbing. The star system survived. MGM launched the motto, "More stars than there are in heaven," though the stars themselves could only wonder how long they would stay in their orbits. 26 new talkie stars had appeared by 1931. Only 3 remained from the stellar roster of 1921. Gilbert's was not the only career on the skids. His comrades in dismay were Conrad Nagel, Charles Farrell, Buddy Rogers, and William Haynes. Roman Navarro, ever dramatic, retired to a monastery for a spell. The going was equally rough for silent goddesses. Billy Dove, Colleen Moore, Corinne Griffith, and Norma Talmadge waned. Some, like Talmadge, pretended to be too rich to care. For some beauties, the eclipse was brutal. Louise Brooks, one of the loveliest visions ever to grace a screen, went from stardom to a Macy's counter in a vertiginous fall from glory. A worse fate than a Macy's counter befell others. Mae Murray, the deluxe millionairess Princess Midivani, I think that's how you say it might just be Divani, Imdivani, you can look it up, was shed by her doubtfully noble spouse when she lost her fortune. After a period of misfortune, she was arrested for vagrancy when discovered one night sleeping on a bench in Central Park. The great luminaries of the 20s, like Mae Murray, truly believed in their stardom as a divine right. Mae was not the only one who sought to elevate herself above ordinary mortals by marrying a title. Gloria Swanson became the Marquise de la Falaise du Coudray. Paula Negri, née Apollonia Chalupek, traded her Countess Domska title for princess, marrying the last available Midivani, Prince Sergei. A few years later, she was ditched by Prince, Paramount, and popularity. That is the end of this chapter.